What's up? What's up? We're here today talking about a great banjo tune that I'm sure many of you know called the Clinch Mountain Backstep. This one was written by the great Dr. Ralph Stanley of the Stanley Brothers, and I'm sure a lot of you have played, the bass part to it in a jam. And the reason it's called Clinch Mountain Backstep is because of this little bar of 2/4, which means there's a bar with 2 quarter notes in the B part, and then it goes back to the normal 4/4 bar with 4 quarter notes. I'll obviously break that down as we talk about the melody. But yeah, first let's just talk about the scale we used for this melody. I was just improvising on it a little bit in the intro there. It's called the minor pentatonic scale. And the pent part of the pentatonic obviously is 5. Pent meaning 5. So what are our 5 notes? We're going to be in A minor pentatonic. That's the scale we're using. So we have our open A string. We got the C on the A string. That's played with our second finger. Open D. And then E on the D string with our first finger. And then the 5th note, the open G. And then we return to A up here as well. It's not part of that scale, because it is also an A. Therefore, there's only 5 notes. A, C, D, E, G. And you get this really cool bluesy sound when you play that scale. I'll play it down and then up. A lot of soul, a lot of grit, and this entire tune uses those notes. In addition to that scale, we're also using the low G note below that A. That's the G on the E string. So that's, again, pent is only the 5 notes themselves. We're using 2 different A's and 2 different G's in this melody. So let me just play this melody really quick. I'll play 2 A parts, 2 B parts, and then I'll quickly break down some things that I think are important about it. So I'll play a little under tempo. 1, 2, 3. Great melody. Obviously, if you go and listen to a banjo version of this tune or really any other bluegrass instrument playing it, there's going to be slight differences. I arranged this melody for bass, right? So I'm doing stuff that I feel like works really nicely on our instrument. This is the same thing with really any bluegrass or folk melody, As long as the core content of that melody is in there and it's clear, people are going to know what it is, Everyone has their own specific version of each of these melodies. So even, after you learn my version, maybe you want to shoot to do something else, and try something that you came up with. Totally fine. As long as those bones of it are really clear. Meat and potatoes are clear. The gravy can taste a little different. It's all good. So, you'll hear there's like 2 different rhythmic ways I approach the final phrase. First one sounds like this. Right? That's at the very beginning of the tune, connected to this phrase. So we're going 8/8 quarter. And then at the very end of the A part, I'm going. So that little chunk of eighth note moves, right? Instead of the E and the D being the eighth notes, the C and the A are the quicker passage, that little eighth note. First one is, second one is. Altogether, here's the A part. There's the first one, right? Here it is again. Second one. And I specifically made that decision so there'd be some differences throughout that part. I think it would sound a little dull to use the same rhythmic motion through the entire part. So I was like, why not change it up a little bit? And then the cool thing about that second version with the eighth notes on the C and A at the very end shows up again in the B part right at the beginning. That's that first B part, you know? And that's, I meant to play a C natural there, not a C sharp, so. But hint, hint, that's a variation you could use, you know? If you want to use a note outside of this minor pentatonic scale, that C sharp sounds pretty nice going to the D instead of the C natural. But forget I said that, you know? Stick to the C natural for now. Yeah, so that final phrase of the A part comes back at the very beginning of the B part. And then you hear both of them again, because the end of the B part is pretty much the same as the end of the A part. Does that all make sense? Drop, any questions in the comments if you're confused by all this. But again, just to, go over it again. The first version of that cadence phrase, cadence means ending. The first version has the eighth notes here. E, D are the eighth notes. And then C and A are quarters. At the very end of the A part and the beginning of the B part, we're going quarter, quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter, quarter. So C and A are the eighth notes instead of E and D, which means they move faster. So that's the entire melody. Let's dig into that B part really quickly. The easiest way to figure out an odd meter, when something isn't the same as it has been, is just to count it out. So I mentioned earlier, there's a 2/4 bar, right? So let's figure out where that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? The fact that you can count this 2/4 bar and it lays out really nicely. So you can figure out where it is. And that's all because of the emphasis of the melody. Listen to it and see if you can spot it out without me counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's that backstep of this tune. And that's kind of the integral part of the tune that, makes it so unique. And that's like, if you were to take a solo or play the melody on this, it's integral that you emphasize those two beats somehow. It doesn't have to be with those notes, but you got to make sure, that you're making it clear to the ensemble, like that you know where you are. Like here's a version of it with some different notes, but watch how I still emphasize it. Do one more. You can still hear that I know where that 2/4 bar is, even though I'm doing some more improvisatory stuff. So that's the lower octave version of this melody. I also wanted to show you guys a higher octave version because that's where I would typically play it. The bass gets a lot clearer in the higher register. And there's this way that I play it that you don't have to move your hand at all. And I think that's really cool. So I wanted to show you, and anyone who feels a little bit more advanced or up for the challenge, we're utilizing this thumb position shape. Even though the hand is below the 12th fret, you know, all those harmonics there, that's kind of where thumb position starts, technically. I'm dipping a little bit lower and using my thumb on the 10th fret, you could call it, on the D string for that C. So going over that minor pentatonic scale that this melody utilizes, the first finger's on the A, thumb on the C, on the D string. So that A is on the A string, C is on the D string. First finger is on the D on the D string. Third finger is the E on the D string. First finger, G on the G string. And third finger, A on the G string. And when you're coming down to that low G below the A, you're going to use the thumb as well. So you get this box shape. Let me play the whole thing for you. I'll start on the top and then go back up. You can play the whole melody without moving your hand at all, you know, in this extended thumb position shape. So let me play this whole melody up top in this register. And then I'll talk a little bit about improvising around this tune and utilizing this minor pentatonic scale to create new ideas. So here's the tune in the top register. So that's Clinch Mountain Backstep in the higher register on the bass. One other thing is in this B part, after the backstep moment, that 2/4 bar, I'm anticipating that next high A, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of playing where that high A is on beat 1, I'm anticipating it by playing it on beat 4 and having it carry over. To me, it's much more exciting. It's almost like the backstep kicks up some dirt and, you're the person who grabs it in midair or something like that. It's a horrible metaphor, but the point is, it is a metaphor nonetheless, and I think it makes sense in this context. Or someone's like tossing a frisbee and you pick it up in midair. How's that? Instead of letting it fall to the ground. Yeah, that's much cooler than dirt. So last thing I want to talk about is just improvising on this tune. You can use these notes and a combination of the higher octave and the lower octave to create improvisatory melodies with Clinch Mountain Backstep. You don't need to play these notes in a particular order, or a particular rhythm. And go back to that video I did on Big Sciota talking about improvising with that tune if you want to get some, bigger concepts that you could apply to this. But in this case, I could say first phrase, instead of playing, what if I started at the bottom instead of the top? That's one difference. And maybe change the rhythm slightly. So instead of, I could play, That was different than the first one. But the point is, I'm changing the rhythm, you know? I think that's what I did at the beginning. That's just one example, you know? I could go... So that's starting on an E note instead of an A note. But it's still on that minor pentatonic scale. What if I started on a C note? That's a C. D. You know, so you could start on a different note. Directionally, you can change it up. Rhythmically, you can change it up. You can play less. You know, what if I went... That's a good example of playing more sparse, but still playing the scale. So, yeah, think about those different concepts, you know, changing direction, changing density. That's like how many notes you're playing, changing what note you're starting on. And that's a great way to improvise on this tune. Use those notes in the minor pentatonic scale. Maybe I'll play one time through the tune where I kind of utilize the higher octave and the lower octave and just improvise around it. Not changing, you know, the scale at all, but changing almost everything else. And I'll play it more at tempo as well, so you can hear what this speed is supposed to be like. 1, 2, 3. So that's the Clinch Mountain Backstep and my little take on improvising over it. Enjoy y'all, have fun, and again, hit me up with any questions you have. Know there's a little bit of complexities in here that upon first glance you may not notice. So yeah, shoot me a line with any questions and have fun.